Continuing on with this part two of this lesson, I had to cut it short because I was interrupted by a phone call. So, like I was mentioning again, this is part two of this sit down lesson of the military cooperation between Iran and Russia, and that has the United States was kind of, the United States Army kind of worried about that over there in the Middle East. So, like I was mentioning, while we have Iran versus the United States, those tensions are increasing over there in the Persian Gulf region because you got 3,000 troops was deployed over there due to the fact Iran kept on sieging the oil shipment supplies over there in the Persian Gulf region. So that's going to stir up more tensions between the United States and Iran. Now you have Iran and Russia boosting up their military cooperation over there in the Middle East. So that's why I brought out the Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, verse 1, all the way down to verse 7 of Russia is going to be a guard to Iran, which is the Persians, which is the modern day Iranians. And continuing on with the reading, it says Iran supplies of bomb-carrying drones to Russia's could see Moscow's help in Tehran's program, becoming more lethal, raising risk across the wider Middle East. The top U.S. Air Force commander in the Middle East says Wednesday. It says the Lieutenant General Alex Grinchwick, the head of the U.S. Air Force Central, described the danger of a potential posed by Russia's cooperation in collisions with Iran as extending from the airspace over Syria. Right, keep this in mind as well too, as I've been mentioning this numerous of times. I would say about like a month and a half ago, you had the United States Army and Russian Army almost had a close counter with one another, while you had Russia was doing military exercise drills with Syria for like 2 or 3 times, and it was almost a danger collision between Russia and the United States over that exercise drill between Russia and Syria. So keep that in mind as well too. It says the head of the Air Force Central described the danger of a potential posed by Russia's cooperation in a collision with Iran as extending from the airspace over Syria, while Tehran threatens commercial ships in the waters of the Persian Gulf. And it says American pilots have already faced what they describe as more aggressive maneuvers from the Russian pilots in Syria, while a new deployment of U.S. air power has been sent to protect commercial shipments in the Gulf Key Strait of Hormuz, if I pronounced that right. It says, though, which 20% of all the world's oil passage. It says, I am concerned about the growing relationship between Russia and Iran and the drones being supplied to Russia, the Grinchwick told journalists during a news conference in the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi, who would have ever thought that Russian Federation would need to go to Iran for military capability, and we yet worse there. That means that Russia actually owes Iran something. I am concerned about the level of cooperation that might happen. Iran's mission to the United Nations and the Russian embassy in Washington did not immediately respond to the request for comment. Tehran has offered conflicting explanations about the drone Russia has used to target Ukraine during its war on the country, at the times denying arming Moscow, while also said it provided some before the war on Ukraine began. Western nations, Ukraine, and experts who have forensically examined the drones linked them back to Iran, and says their vast number of deployed of the battlefield shows the consistent resupplying by Tehran. Gunchrick says he was worried that Russia upgrades to Iran's drone technology could backwash to Tehran's, making those bombs carry devices even more dangerous. and by Russia owning Iran for the motions it could return the favor by dialing up the pressure on American pilots who fly over Syria and Iraq as part of the missions targeting remains of the Islamic State groups. There could be some sort of amount of cooperation in collisions between Russia and Iran that's playing out here in Syria. We will see what that goes, where that goes. I meant to say, Grinch has said. It is something that we watch very closely. The growing relationship is of a military concern to me. Meanwhile, Russia pilots over the recent months have been aggressively flying close to both manner the F-35 fighter jets and drones over Syria. The Air Forces publicly showed Russian pilots dumping fuel on a drone and trying to set it all with flares. But Grinchwit describes some of that behavior as dialing as back in recent weeks. It says, I am not attributing the casualties to the fact that we call them out, but by showing the unprofessional nature of their behavior since the time that we do still intercept our MQ-9 drones from time to time, but it is a much safe matter. He said, I will still characterize as a unprofessional because it is not in accordance with established rules that we have where we stay with certain distance apart, but it is safe at this time. The U.S. and Russia still operates what American calls a disconfliction line to make sure that aircraft don't run into each other. Right, and that's what been happening. They've been running close to collision course between one another. That's why you have the ongoing tensions between Russia and the United States. And it says the United States and Russia still operate on what American calls a deconflict line to make sure their aircraft doesn't run into each other or come close. Grinchwick describes 90% of the calls as routine, though 10% can involve issues with the countries vulnerably dispute each other actions over Syria, which still remains mirrored in its year-long war. It says, you do get into some heated exchanges, Grishwin said. Those exchanges, while heated, are always professional between the two sides. It says, meanwhile, in Syria, Grishwin said that hundreds of fighters from the Russian mercenary groups Wagner still operates in the country, even after their leader died mysteriously in a fiery plane crash following his march on Moscow challenging Russians President Vladimir Putin. We have seen, as you might expect it, some tensions between those forces and the Russian forces that are there, Gershwin said. For most of the part, it appears that they have come to some sort of agreement, and they continue to operate together to meet the objectives of the Russian Federation there in Syria. In recent weeks, a major deployment of the U.S. sailors and Marines along the F-35 and F-16s and other military aircraft have been under the Persian Gulf region over concerns about Iran targeting shipping. The Pentagon also considered plans to put U.S. troops on board commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz. Grinchwood said the flexible deployment likely will remain for some time, backing up by the extension network of bases of America across the region. Bring up that Matthew's the 24th chapter, verse 6.
A lot of historical sites, very nice restaurants, and a really unique and interesting ballpark. Oh, it's a wonderful place to watch a game if you've not been.
And this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 6, and it reads through the Holy Scriptures. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that should be not trouble, for all these things must first come to pass, but man, it's not. Bye. So with that, hopefully this sit down lesson was edifying. So this is from part 1 into part 2 of the sit down lesson. As it says again from NavyTimes.com, published by John Gambrill from the Associated Press as of September 20th, 1:21 p.m. As it says again from NavyTimes.com, it says the U.S. Air Force's general in the Middle East worries about Russian-Iran cooperation. So with that, once again, hopefully this lesson was edifying. I would like to give all praises and glory and honor to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem Kakadash. Shalom to the elders for preaching the word, truthfully and sincerity. And shalom to the Akim, scattered four corners of the globe, preaching the word, truthfully and sincerity as well too. And until next time, I will say shalom.